So great, why don't we go ahead and get started. Hello everyone again, I'm Sarah, co-founder and CEO of Reaction Commerce. Welcome to the October edition of Reaction Action. You can see I even have a fun little jack-o'-lantern pumpkin with the Reaction logo on it. So before we get started, I'm gonna just run through a few housekeeping notes so we can get them out of the way. So we are recording this event and we will make it available to share with everyone that may have missed out or you just want to reference it in the future. So we'll be sharing that out via our blog and other social channels. We will open the floor for Q&A as we always do, but we have a bit of a prepared section at first, so feel free to post your questions as they come to your minds in the Q&A section in the Zoom channel, or you can put it directly in the chat. It's nice to meet you too. If you're in the chat, go ahead and let us say hello and let us know where you're from. I know we have folks joining from around the world, which is always just really, really cool to see. I'm personally recording this live from our office in Santa Monica, California, where it's 8 a.m. And Spencer's in Colorado and Matthias over there is in Germany, but we'll introduce those folks in a second. So we're gonna hop right in. We've got a lot to cover. Don't forget, after the webinar's over, there'll be a little bit of a survey, just a couple short questions. But most importantly, provide your information and we'll send you out some Reaction swag. So you don't want to miss out on the cool Reaction swag. Okay, we are going to jump in. So here's a quick look at our agenda for today. As usual, we're going to try to cover a lot. We've got a little bit of a celebration. I want to do a shout out to all of you, our community and our partners and our clients. And we've got a couple fun company announcements. And then Spencer's going to chime in and talk about our recent version 2.0.0 release. And then we'll do a little bit of a roadmap update, kind of what we're working on over the next couple quarters. And then we'll take as much Q&A as possible. As usual, if we're not able to get to all your questions, we'll be sure to answer them after the webinar in our recap. So let's jump on in. So woohoo, we're 5 years old. So just last week, October 7th, was our 5-year anniversary, 5 years since I co-founded the company and we incorporated as Reaction Commerce Inc. And also as we first launched Reaction to the open source community. So I think you all know this. Commerce is way more complex than just a shopping cart. And I always like to say when I'm talking about what we're doing is that you could sell physical goods, I could be selling digital goods, you could have a monthly subscription business, or maybe even a rental service. You could ship from one location, you could have multiple warehouses, you could only ship domestically, or you could ship worldwide. So it's way more complex than just order processing and a shopping cart. This is our vision. We don't talk a lot about it a lot, but it's been our vision for pretty much since day one, which is connecting and democratizing the world through open commerce. So super proud of the path that we're on. I actually get to see this vision manifest in multiple ways. Lots of the time on Gitter, there's folks around the world connecting through Reaction, which is open commerce, and now I even get to see parts of it in the physical world when some of you folks visit the office or when we're out visiting and doing meetups in the community or meeting up with clients. So woohoo, we're 5 years old, we're just getting started, and excited about the next 5 years and beyond. So here's a little bit of a shout out to the community. It's been an action-packed 5 years. We've got more than 10,000 commits, dozens of releases, actually probably quite a few more than a dozen. We're closing in on 8,000 stars on GitHub, on our main Reaction repo, over 100+ countries of interest and origin, checking out the Reaction Commerce code base. We're on a pretty good cycle in terms of releases, and we've just seen a ton of growth, especially in just the last 6 months. So certainly like to pause for a moment and just say thank you to all of you who are participating today and that continue to contribute and improve and provide feedback to me and to the team on what we're doing. This is definitely a community effort, and we are incredibly grateful for that. I'd also like to give a special shout out to Pat and to Lorenzo and to Lone and to Will. I think some of you are on the Reaction Action today, but you are some of our most active contributors, and you evangelize Reaction through your efforts and through your contributions throughout Gitter and in the forums. So special big shout out to the four of you. We certainly appreciate everything that you've contributed, and look forward to continuing to working with you and getting your feedback as we continue to evolve Reaction Commerce. Okay, so we're just getting started. There's a ton of room for improvement. We certainly know that, and we, you know, that's our jobs. We're continually looking to improve and iterate, and putting more software and more data and more tools around commerce into your hands, into the hands of the masses, we like to say. So I couldn't be more proud of this slide. We're now closing in on almost 30 full-time employees. We are a distributed first team. We're now in 6 countries across 4 continents. And believe me, it makes for an interesting time zone challenge, but that's just a part of it. I mean, as we already talked about, there's 30 of us and thousands of you. So we're built for distribution and built across time zones. We're continuing to grow the team, so I always say this, but if you're interested in joining us, please feel free to reach out to any of us. Check out our careers page. Even if you don't see a job description there that is interesting to you, you should still reach out to us. And so a little bit of a drum roll. We've got some good news, exciting news, which is excited to announce that Matthias is now joining us as our new CTO, and he's here on the webinar. This is officially our first kind of broad announcement to all of you, to our community. We did a press release and a blog post yesterday. You can check out our blog to learn a little bit more about Matthias. Matthias is based in Berlin, Germany, so we're now European presence, and one of the countries on our distributed team. So Matthias would love to introduce you, say hello, tell us maybe why Reaction, and I'd also encourage you to talk about your enthusiasm for hot peppers. So Matthias, you want to say hello?
Thank you, Sarah. Hello. There, I said it. Yeah, hi, my name is Matthias. I recently joined Reaction as their CTO, and as Sarah said, I'm hailing from Berlin, Germany, where I've been living for more than 35 years now. I'm very excited to join the team here and help them grow both the team as people, as individuals, especially on the product and engineering side, and also the company as a whole. Just, you know, a wee bit about my background. Prior to joining Reaction, I've worked as an engineer, co-founder, and then later as CEO at Travis CI, which is a distributed company that has headquarters here in Berlin. Where originally I focused on infrastructure, on scaling the product in the earlier days, and also on developing the business model for what also started out as an open source project. I did shift my focus over time to build from building the product towards building the team in the organization that's building the product, which is also what I'm looking forward to helping with here. Before Travis CI, I've worked at a company called Basho, makers of Riak, an open source distributed database. Not sure if anyone's heard of it. It came up in the craze of NoSQL databases a couple of years ago. And I've built another startup before, which was also, you know, aimed at building great tools for developers, which is what I'm very passionate about. So I have that kind of history, building great tools for developers and operators, especially with open source in mind, building open source tooling and building business models around it. It goes a lot further than my time at Travis alone, and I'm pretty sure it's only going to be more interesting for me or not. And just most recently, after working as an executive and as a management coach, helping startup executives and engineering managers, especially navigate challenges, the challenges of taking on the leadership and management role. And I've been working with different startups to help them develop business models, pricing, go-to-market strategies, just focusing more on the business side of things, more than my profile of having been a developer before would probably let seep through. Yeah, I'm very excited to be here. I'm excited to work with the team here at Reaction to build the next generation commerce platform, to help the team and the company grow and scale, especially the engineering team, and to help them develop business models for its open source product and project. And as Sarah said, I also have a hobby of growing hot peppers on my balcony, in particular habaneros, which I turned into delicious treats that I only give away rather than sell. It's just a weird hobby that I have. And I myself am not even a very spicy food enthusiast. It's just a fun thing to do. And the summer here in Berlin has been really good. So I've had a lot of peppers to work with this year around. Anyway, that's me.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Matthias. I'm thrilled to have you on board as my partner, and proud to introduce you to the community and as our CTO. And I'm looking forward to trying some of the hot sauce someday. So let's keep rolling through our agenda. We're going to switch gears and start talking about our 2.0.0 release. So this month we had another big milestone beyond turning 5, and that's in the growth of our product and direction of where we're going. This is another major point release for us, and so to talk a little bit about that, I'm going to hand it over to Spencer, who's our Director of Engineering. He's joining us this morning from Colorado Springs, Colorado. So Spencer, take it from here.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Welcome, everybody. As Sarah mentioned, we did reach another big milestone this month, and that was with the launch of our first release candidate for 2.0 of Reaction. Some of you may have already seen the updates on GitHub. We did do a blog announcement earlier. But this really is a big release for us, both as a company and as an engineering team. What I consider this is that this marks more the beginning of a new direction for Reaction rather than the end or reaching a specific goal. So what does this mean specifically? Let's start by looking at some of our goals for 2.0. So when we started kind of thinking about the direction we wanted to take Reaction, one of our goals was to introduce a more modular architecture. So we wanted to do this to improve flexibility for developers, for companies, and Reaction has really always been about how can we improve the flexibility and the agility of companies to react to market demands or other concerns. So we've done this. We've created a reference storefront as a standalone UI. So this abstracts what was previously a monolithic Meteor app into now we have kind of a storefront UI and an API. And we've done this API by introducing a new GraphQL API. So this is not a REST API. This is not a DDP API that was kind of bundled within Meteor. This is a new GraphQL API that we've been working on. And so this kind of enables headless commerce. And by headless commerce, we mean that those of you who want to kind of create your own UI or your own storefront can do that. And you don't have to adjust or touch the code on the server side or on the API side to do that. Another 2.0 goal was to enhance developer experience and developer productivity. And we've done this in a similar way. Introducing the new API definitely enhances developer productivity. Developers who want to focus on the UI can now focus just by working within the storefront. We are also introducing a few other things along with this. The Reaction design system is one of those things. And we have a Next.js storefront starter kit. And so within this component library, the developers can work who want to just work on a component. They can work within this component library. They can write tests, do all of that within a standalone repository. We'll get more into that later. I want to start off by showing you guys a demo of this Next.js storefront.
In this release, we built this storefront as a standalone front end for the first time, which really showcases the decoupled headless e-commerce model. This gives developers more flexibility to change business logic on the back end without disrupting the front end user experience. The storefront is the client of the new server-side API that is based on the GraphQL protocol, and it connects to the same Mongo database that Reaction has always used. Let's see what this means. On the storefront, I decided to change the description of these shoes, casual, high tops, these Converse All-Stars. So to change the description of these Converse All-Stars, you would edit the product description in the admin panel of the Reaction app. Let me edit the product description for these Converse All-Stars. Shoes, casual, high tops. Classic, all size, red. Click, publish. Now, when I look at the storefront, the description is updated, as you'll see here. What's key is that the storefront uses the GraphQL API to request data from the same Mongo database that the admin requested data from, only that the admin uses Meteor to request that data. GraphQL is a more standard API, allowing you to get all the data you want in a single query. You can also select exactly what data you want to access from the database. So overall, as a part of 2.0, we have created an all-new API using the GraphQL protocol that allows us to connect the Reaction Mongo database to any other app, in this case, the Next.js storefront. With this, developers can fulfill the front end of Reaction using any technology in the future, whether it's Angular or any other framework.
All right. Well, so that was Machiko. She's one of our software engineers. Thank you so much, Machiko, for doing that demo. So I want to hit on a few other things that she wasn't able to really demo because some of these things are more under the covers. So this new storefront, what we're calling our reference storefront or our starter kit, is based on Next.js. And one of the features that we've added to it is something that we've heard an enormous amount of requests from the community, and that's analytics. So we've added a segment-compatible event analytics API into this storefront. You do not have to use Segment, but it is an initial implementation. You could use Segment to pipe events off to Google Analytics or Mixpanel or any other analytics engine. You could also build your own plugin within the storefront to just pipe those events directly off to any of these providers. What this means specifically is that we're using Segment's V2 of their e-commerce events engine. We've chosen to do this because it's very full-featured, because of the way Segment works and how they pipe events off to different analytics providers. If you're covering the different analytics events that are within that API, you're generally going to have enough data that any other provider would have the data there as well. But we have full coverage, so a user or a customer landing on a landing page, landing on, let's say, a product grid, and connecting all the way through to a completed checkout, you can now track all of those events, aggregate those up so that someone in the business can start to make decisions based on these events. Another feature that we've added as kind of part of this 2.0 release is what we're calling the Reaction Design System. This is a component library based in React that is essentially a repository for e-commerce focused components. We do have some basic elements such as buttons and forms, but really the focus here is on providing fantastic components that allow you to very quickly build UIs for conducting e-commerce or for building an e-commerce UI. So some of these are more composite components, like a checkout step, or an address book, or some way to collect payments. So this is live now at designsystem.reactioncommerce.com. I will say it's in flux. I wouldn't say that you should necessarily take these components and drop them directly into a brand new production app, but we are using it. It is in use. All of the storefront starter kit components are based on, and most of them are imported directly from the Reaction Design System. They're published directly to NPM, so you don't have to necessarily install anything new. you can just import these as part of your package JSON and then use them as if you would use any other kind of React component. The component or the design system also includes documentation. So when you check that out, the design system has documentation and essentially a way to experiment with each of these components baked right into the design system. So please go check that out. And again, there's even more. So the 2.0 release is also kind of as I mentioned, the beginning of the work that we've done to start to split Reaction as a monolith into Reaction as a system or Reaction as a platform. So Reaction platform aggregates all of these different pieces and helps you start it up. So one of the other pieces that we've added is the Hydra authentication service. So this service allows you to log in or do authentication from within the storefront starter kit into accounts that still exist within the classic Reaction app, or the classic Reaction UI that's based on Meteor. So Reaction platform, the focus there was to make it just as easy to start up, just as easy to get started doing development as it always has been with Reaction. So it's still download one repository and run one command, and it will spin up all these different services and connect them automatically for you. So you can check that out. It's on our GitHub, Reaction Commerce, and then Reaction-platform. And that's where we would recommend anybody starting new with Reaction to start for a new project. So yeah, please check it out. We've touched on a few key features here. I would invite you to check out our GitHub or to check out our release notes. We've worked very hard. There's a lot of people that have put time into getting these release notes, I guess, fully documented so that they explain everything, including breaking changes, new features, bug fixes. So please check those out. And then if you have any questions, drop them in the Q&A here and we'll get to questions. I think that's a good segue to our roadmap discussion. So Sarah, I'll turn it back over to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Spencer. So now we'll shift over and we'll take a look at our roadmap for the rest of the year and early next year, let's say, into Q1 and maybe early Q2. So these are just a few of the kind of like high-level items that we're actually going to be starting to work on. We're already starting to work on, and just after this webinar, we actually go into sprint planning to kick some of these off in more detail. So promotions engine. So this is actually something we hear a lot about from the community, from you all, is wanting more flexibility to be able to set up different promotions and to apply those promotions across broad products or categories or tags, if you will. So we've got some initial promotions capabilities already, and this will be expanding that and placing kind of an engine and different rules that will give you more flexibility to set up promotions. So think of percentage off, dollar off, kind of coupons. The next one, shipping rules. So again, configuring shipping rules based on certain products to be included in those shipping rules or even excluded, and to be able to set up specific shipping rules by categories. So again, this is one I've actually heard quite a few times from the community as a specific request, and so that will be introduced in the coming months. So routing is another one that we're really focused on, and this is pretty self-explanatory. There'll be a lot more information that we'll share. We've got specs and details to be shared up on GitHub. But this is customers migrating to Reaction, migrating their product catalogs to Reaction, and be able to set up detailed routes so those can be mapped to the new Reaction storefront. And then the last one to touch on is around tag management. So being able to have greater customization for enabling and disabling tags, as you all know, kind of our tagging system. And so being able to more broadly in bulk add products to tags. And so we're really looking at everything that we touched, being able to give you more capabilities to do bulk editing and bulk rules across products, categories, and tags. Right now the UI is very kind of, you manage a single product, and now we want to start to introduce kind of more bulk editing across the catalog, across promotions or across shipping. So that's high level. There's going to be, there'll be, things that we add in beyond this. And what we'll plan to do is I've got actually a product update post that I'll be sharing on our blog next week. It's already in draft, so we'll go into a little bit more detail about each of these. And then I know there's other questions around what we're working on or what we're not working on. And as always, you can follow any of our progress on GitHub and ask questions there. Each of these will have detailed GitHub issues and information where you can get more detail. So Spencer or Matthias, did I leave anything out with the roadmap that's worth calling out? Are we good? Okay, we're good. I'm getting the thumbs up. So we'll keep moving on in terms of the agenda, and happy to take questions about the roadmap once we get through these last couple slides and any other topics. We've already gotten a couple good questions. So, that's pretty much all we had for today in terms of prepared content. If you've joined a reaction action or you've seen this slide, we'd love to have you all be more involved. We welcome contributions and pull requests. Best way to do that is to reach out to us via GitHub and see what we're working on, or reach out to any of the core team members. We love to work with agencies. If you're working on behalf of clients or you're an agency or dev shop or e-commerce agency, we would love to get in touch and learn more about how we can support you. And then, as always, you can reach out to us via chat, forums. Our docs are continually getting updated. And obviously this reaction action that we try to do every 2 to 3 months. So hopefully those are some useful resources. And now we are going to jump into Q&A. So there were a couple questions that came in as folks were registering over the last few weeks for this reaction action. So I'll start with some of those. And one was around version control. So Spencer, I'm going to tee this one up for you, but the question seemed to be like, how do we, what are our thoughts on version control? What about our Git workflow? Talk maybe a little bit about test coverage and acceptance tests, because I know we've been doing some work there. So maybe just share broadly about our version control.
All right, yeah, thanks for the question. So we use Git, as many of you who are developers know, we use Git for our version control system. We use GitHub, so we push all of our code to the kind of centrally located GitHub, but each developer, can kind of check in code on different branches. Within our storefront starter kit, we're piloting a new Git workflow, Git flow, which allows us to kind of have a main development branch and then to peel release branches off of that as needed without really compromising the development workflow or having any uncertainty about where to merge new code. Within the core reaction branch, we're still developing much in the same way we have, which is that we'll be working towards a given set of features, and then every couple weeks or so, we'll create a new release branch. That release branch will start to go through QA, and as Sarah mentioned, we do have a new QA engineer. So Jeff joined us sometime within the last several months, and he's been working really hard to grow our test coverage. So part of our QA process is that we do have, I guess, an integrated CI server. So we're using Circle CI there. So every commit, every pull request that adds to our code base goes through this automated testing coverage. So that includes things like linting. So we're linting our code base to make sure that there's a consistent style across different projects and within the same project. Additionally, we are running automated tests. So we're almost done adding our new kind of acceptance test suite, which will have automated tests for our entire operator experience. We have had issues in the past where some code that's focused on say feature A ends up causing issues with the UI or something else that was very unexpected and hard to test against. So by improving our test coverage here, both in the acceptance test as well as with our unit tests, we're starting to really build ourselves a more protective net to prevent some of these unexpected breaking changes. So that's kind of, I guess, the big picture there in terms of test coverage and our Git workflow.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Spencer. I'll tip another one for you, which was came in earlier around performance. So I think as most of you probably know, over the last year, we've really been focused on performance of the overall app. And we break up performance into kind of multiple kind of areas. There's the storefront performance, there's the operator performance, and then there's developer performance. And so we've seen some pretty big improvements in terms of the performance of the storefront. So maybe Spencer, talk a little bit about some of the early results of the new reference storefront.
Yeah, so the new reference storefront, one of the reasons that I mentioned this earlier, that we wanted to start to split the UI off of our Meteor app, was so that we could focus on building a world-class customer-facing storefront. And world-class really means world-class in terms of performance. You know, there's features as well, but being able to have a storefront that loads almost immediately is super important in today's commerce world. So that's one thing that we've done. We have a PR that's open. Hopefully it'll get merged today, where I'm seeing first contentful paint and first meaningful paint times right at around 600 milliseconds. For those of you who've been following Reaction for some time, you'll know that this is way, way, way better and way faster than what we've seen before. We're seeing time to interactive, significantly faster than what we've seen before. And a lot of this is because of the way that we're loading the app now. And kind of an aside to performance is the impact that this has on SEO. So one of the reasons this performance is improving is because we're now doing server-side rendering. So one of the advantages of our new storefront UI is that all of the pages are rendered on the server and then sent down to the client. So this improves the ability for different search engines to crawl this. It also improves the performance there, and an improved performance results in an improved SEO. So that's kind of, I guess, the big picture there. We'll continue to have more information here. And one thing that we're working on is how can we continue to, I guess, hold ourselves accountable to some of these performance benchmarks and start to release different, whether it's specific numbers or just kind of general big picture looks at what our performance is. But as we release new versions of Reaction, to really identify what the performance improvements and what the performance metrics are that we're measuring for these different releases.
Yep, that's great, Spencer. You actually answered two of my questions in one, because I was going to also ask about SEO, because that's also been a topic that comes up pretty regularly. So I'm going to shift gears, and there's a couple questions that are in the Q&A in the Zoom. There's two that are related, one from Jonathan and the other from Moore, about how Meteor and GraphQL relate to each other. So in particular, Jonathan's, I'm looking to run headless, so our 2.0, but only without Meteor. Is that already possible? And if no, is there an ETA? And then sort of related is, Moore says, remember reading somewhere that GraphQL will replace Meteor. Can we maybe explain or articulate, Spencer, a little bit about kind of how GraphQL works with the existing Meteor application?
Yeah, great questions. So I'm actually start with the second one, which is, will GraphQL replace Meteor? And the answer is kind of a yes, sort of. So the answer is yes. We are replacing the Graph or the Meteor API with GraphQL. And this is also kind of the answer to the question of, can I run headless without Meteor? On the UI side, the answer is yes. You can do that today. You can build a storefront based on kind of our reference storefront. We encourage you to grab the Next.js starter kit storefront and to fork it and to do really cool and interesting things with it, and then let us know or publish that on your own GitHub. We really encourage people to play with that, and I'm excited to see what people are able to come up with in terms of UIs for this new Reaction API. In terms of, is it possible to run entirely without Meteor? The answer is still no there. So Meteor is still baked in on the operator UI and is still somewhat involved within the GraphQL API. So there are requests that will come in through GraphQL and then get routed to Meteor so that Meteor ends up kind of handling the request. But you can interact entirely with the Reaction app when you're building a storefront through this GraphQL API. So I hope that answers your question. We are working to continue to improve the API or the coverage of our GraphQL API. But our goal is not the elimination of Meteor. Our goal is the improvement of our GraphQL coverage and the improvement of, I guess, performance and the speed of the application. I do think that we will eventually replace Meteor, but that's not necessarily the stated goal here.
Great, thanks, thanks, Spencer. A question from Abhishek around, migrating from 1.x, in this case 1.16, to our 2.0 release. Kind of what's the best way to do that? How tough is it? Maybe share a little bit about migration from the 1.x versions, kind of the later 1.x versions up to 2.0.
Yeah, another really good question. So one thing that we've been really focused on as a development team is making this migration path as easy as possible. We do really want people to be able to upgrade Reaction without too much hassle. I think, how tough is it? That's going to be a question that partly is based on how many customizations you've done to Reaction.
Hey Spencer, Abhishek added, will our custom plugins developed in 1.16 or 1.x tend to be compatible with 2.0? So again, it's probably going to say it depends, but maybe share a little bit about custom plugins and 1.x to 2.0.
Great question and great follow-up. So I think the answer is most of those plugins should continue to work as they are today. There's a few where we've had to tweak the API, and this is part of the reason for the 2.0 version, is that we really want to take kind of present the best possible kind of first step into this new world. And so there may be places where you do need to, I guess, adjust something within a plugin. I think potentially the payments plugins and maybe taxes, maybe if you've added any plugins related to addresses, those would be plugins where I know there may be some changes you would have to make. But what I would say is, please just try to upgrade. We do have all of the breaking changes that we're aware about listed in our release notes. So check out our release notes, and I would say go back to whatever version you're on in terms of trying to understand, what that migration path might be. We're continually releasing new release candidates for 2.0. It's not final yet, but we're getting very close. And so as you find things that are broken, which, despite our best efforts, I imagine that there will be certain things that are not ideal. I'd encourage you to, file an issue, and we can work together to try to figure out what the best migration path is forward there.
Great. So I want to answer a couple questions that I saw in the chat from Matthew and also Jonathan about, and honestly, good feedback. So there's some feedback that our docs might not be as straightforward as they need to be around getting started, especially with version 2 platform. So yeah, honestly, that's heard loud and clear. Version 2.0 is new. The Reaction platform stuff is new. We spend a lot of time working on our docs. So this is the team right here between Spencer and Matthias who can make some improvements on that. We also encourage comments directly in the docs, or even pull requests with suggestions. But Spencer, I don't know. I mean, I think that's actually something we spend a lot of time on, and I appreciate the feedback that there's room for improvement on, especially around getting started with the new 2.0 and the reference storefront. So anything to add there, Spencer?
Yeah, so this is great feedback here. Thank you for bringing this up. I actually merged a PR yesterday that hopefully will start to address a lot of these concerns. We're aware that kind of as we've been rolling out 2.0, we've had kind of two different recommended methods for installing and getting up and running with Reaction. And while 2.0 is a release candidate, it's still what we would say is kind of the recommended way to start with Reaction now. And so I guess as of RC5, which has not been pushed into master yet, has not been tagged, but it currently exists as a release branch, we would recommend using Reaction Platform. We also, I think yesterday, just had a PR come in that will hopefully address some of the issues with starting a new project. I know there were issues with the Mongo replica set within Docker. There's a lot of kind of technical reasons that happened, but we've made some adjustments to our Docker Compose file. So Pete, one of our software engineers, has been working on that. And I think that issue should be resolved hopefully as soon as the 5th release candidate here. But again, I always appreciate feedback on our docs. That's something we work very, very hard on. And so anything that's unclear, please file an issue, file a PR, post something in a chat. But we do always appreciate the feedback there.
Great, thanks. Okay, so Moore asked another question around kind of, will our future releases, do we have plans to include bulk importing as well as kind of bulk editing? And so there are actually work in progress around bulk importing of catalogs and from other systems or CSV files or the like. Spencer, anything to add specifically about importing as well as bulk editing?
So I mean, I think this kind of comes into whether is this on our short-term roadmap or is this on our long-term roadmap. I think a better way to interact with product information and to edit products is absolutely on our radar. And I think as we shared the short-term roadmap earlier in this webinar, I would refer to that as our kind of next highest priorities. But bulk editing and making sure that it's easy for people to interact with products within Reaction is very much something that we're focused on in the near future.
Yep, that makes sense. So let's go back to this was also one of the questions we got previously from some of the folks signing up for the event today. And Spencer, you touched a little bit on it when you were chatting about segment and analytics. But maybe, this has been a request that we've known of for years, honestly, is just more analytics and more access to data. So Spencer, you wanted to share a little bit more around kind of the new capabilities of analytics and the segment integration?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is something that's been on our list. And as many of you know, I built a shop in Reaction years ago, one of maybe the more early shops, and this was probably 3 or 4 years ago at this point. And what you had to do back then was you kind of had to roll your own analytics integration. And it was kind of based on Meteor, and it wasn't the easiest thing to do. It was possible, but there were no real blueprints for how to do it. So with our new reference storefront, one of the things we really wanted to focus on was making it really simple to know, how do you add specific analytics packages. I do think this is something that's, very specific business to business. Different businesses are going to have different requirements around, even down to the type of events that are important to them, the type of software they want to use, whether it's, Google Analytics or something more specific for a different kind of business. But those are very important. And so what we've done is we've created, and Mike worked on this, an event engine of sorts within the storefront that essentially pipes events that happen. And events might be something like a customer viewing a product or a customer viewing a product grid, somebody adding something to the cart, a checkout step. Somebody has now added their address or their payment information, all the way through to we've had a conversion, we've had a completed order, and we want to register that. And so all of these events are available within the reference storefront. I guess one of the additional pieces here is I'd like this to serve as a blueprint or a map of sorts for if you fork the reference storefront. If you want to create your own version of the storefront, how would you add a unique event that's unique to your business? And I couldn't say exactly what those events are, but hopefully that's a much simpler process now. And again, I think segment is built in right now, but it should be fairly simple for you to add your own analytics reporting tool or own analytics engine that reports directly to a different service. So I highly encourage people to start to build those and experiment with that. And let us know how that goes. Let us know what problems you run into. But I'm very excited about this kind of new version of analytics we're releasing.
Great. We'll take a couple more questions because we're starting to get close to our time limit. But Jonathan, I just want to acknowledge that I see your request on some beginner-friendly tags on issues to start contributing. I love that. We'd love to see you and others starting to contribute. So we'll definitely make that a priority and start to put some additional tags on some issues where you could jump in and start contributing to Reaction. And so I know sometimes it's daunting, especially in open source, to figure out where to start, how to get involved. And we'll look to figure out kind of some tags. We've done that in the past. I think we can do a better job. So thumbs up for me. We will definitely make it a priority to put some beginner-friendly documentation as well as beginner-friendly tags on some of these issues.
I will say this, we don't have a lot of this right now, but as Sarah mentioned, this is something we've worked on before. We have a few issues right now that are tagged as good first issue, as well as tagged with the GitHub Hacktoberfest tag. And I know, I don't know what the exact rules are, but I know GitHub will actually send you some swag if you create a PR or something like that within kind of the Hacktoberfest event that they have going on. So we'll do some work to try to find some more issues so that there's more than just a few of them. But good first issue is one of the tags you can look for, as well as the Hacktoberfest.
Awesome. So Emiliano, I hope I pronounced that right, asked a question around kind of benchmarks. What are the limits in terms of, let's say, number of products or SKUs, catalog, kind of concurrent visitors of something built on Reaction Commerce? So I'll give some thoughts on this. We've definitely been doing quite a bit of benchmark testing, and we've done we've created different personas of storefront sizes, so based on catalog visits. Vishal and Brent I think it was either our last or on a recent Reaction Action shared a bit about our performance benchmarking and some of the tooling that we had put in place. All of that testing was on the 1.x version, on the Meteor kind of classic storefront. So we don't have updated numbers for the new 2.0 kind of reference storefront, other than what Spencer's already shared. We've already got some initial data showing it's incredibly performant. So we've been testing previously with catalogs over, I know one of the personas was over 200,000 products, and I think we've even published some of those in a blog post. I don't remember them all off the top of my head right now, but that's something we've been looking at actively, and maybe Spencer, if you have any more info to share, but it is a priority that I've talked about a lot with the team. We want to get ahead of the benchmarking and have tooling, not just for us, but also provide that tooling for you all in the community to make sure that your shops are running as performant as possible. I often will say that the most important feature in e-commerce is speed, so we definitely get it.
Yeah, the only thing I would add there is that this is very much on our radar and something that we focus on. So as Sarah mentioned, we have been, focused on trying to do a better job of benchmarking within the storefront. And I know we have released previously some benchmarks around, catalog size and number of customers. As we're kind of transitioning into 2.0, we've kind of put the benchmarks on hold. We would like to get to a stable place and then really benchmark against what the new version of Reaction looks like. But performance for me is about both, the first experience a customer has, as well as with the scalability. So those are two distinct ways that we can look at that. And I think we do need to do a better job of benchmarking and really providing some metrics around the scalability and the kind of catalog size and those types of things that Reaction supports.
Right. So I'll take this last question that just came in from Riza around kind of, again, documentation on how to install Reaction 2.0. on AWS or deploying it to AWS. And so I know we have some room for improvement in terms of our documentation for deployment. There is some information in our docs, but I think in terms of a blueprint, there is some work happening right now by Greg, who helps us leads our DevOps in terms of deployment. So I think the answer more is we need to provide some additional documentation there. But I don't know if there's anything to add there, Spencer, other than definitely acknowledge that you're looking for that, and we can provide more clarity.
Yeah, and all of the different pieces of Reaction 2 or 2.0 are Dockerized or containerized, as you could think about them. So it should be fairly straightforward if you have experience with Docker to deploy each of those pieces. And then, we do network all of those together as part of the development process. The Reaction platform does that. So I think this is definitely something that we can improve our docs on, but I think a savvy community member could also probably figure it out pretty quickly. And it sounds like maybe this is something that a blog post or, I'd be very curious if somebody can, figure this out and just post a blog post, and, I'd be happy to retweet something that shows people how to do this.
Yep. That's great. I think we're out of time. I tried to get as many questions as possible, but like I said at the beginning, if we didn't get to your questions, we will be sure to address them in our recap after the fact. So thank you everyone so much for attending the Reaction Action. Really appreciate it. There's a survey with a couple short questions. Be sure to fill it out. And like I said, there's some swag that will come your way. And again, hope you all have a great day, evening, and we'll see you on the next one.
Bye, y'all.
Thank you all. Bye.
See you.